not just choosing a location. It's like, you know, do we want cacao ceremonies and waterfalls, or mountains and motorbike chaos, or really good spring rolls? Hello, if you're new here, my name is Amanda Kolbye and I am a 7-figure entrepreneur who helps entrepreneurs start and scale their online business by building a personal brand and monetizing social media. So on the channel here, you're going to find tons of content surrounding marketing, entrepreneurship, lifestyle, business tips, and digital nomad content as well. So go ahead and hit like and subscribe to help us creating all this amazing content for you, more amazing content. And let's dive in. So today's video, I am giving you guys my top 5 digital nomad locations in specifically Southeast Asia for 2022. So I get asked all the time, you know, where should I go? Where should I travel? What are the best places to live for 3 months, for 1 month, all of these different things. And I've lived extensively for about 4 years now in Southeast Asia, the Americas, as well as Europe. So I've got a lot to compare for you. My one little just side note to you is obviously in the current day times of 2022 and 2021, make sure and do your own research before heading to any of these locations because things change very fast. And stay tuned until the end because I'm actually going to be giving you guys a bonus location that's probably the most underrated and up and coming location in Southeast Asia for digital nomads. So before we dive in to location number 1, a couple of quick tips for you on Southeast Asia as a whole, since that's kind of what we're covering today. So a bunch of the big draws to Southeast Asia are 4 main things. 1, it's cheap. I'm sure you probably already knew that, but it really is. It's very, very cheap to live there. A big draw is the weather. So that's probably why you're looking at these locations as well. But the weather in Southeast Asia is amazing if you like heat. But you do want to pay attention to the rainy seasons because those can be a bit of a bummer to stay in those locations during. The other thing is the food. The food is just... Found some spring rolls, couldn't even record before eating most of them. So amazing. I miss Southeast Asia so much. It is all of my favorite food, so you are in for a treat if you've never been before. And the last thing is a little bit more of a con, but the language barrier, right? For many people, you're probably not going to be speaking the native languages spoken there, but I will say that it's pretty easy to get around with English. Just make sure you're making an effort in all these locations and Google Translate will become your best friend. Okay, so location number 1 is CHIANG. CHIANG is in Bali. It is one of my absolute favorite places, another place I've spent a lot of time, and I think this is gonna be probably one of your favorites to go to as well. In CHIANG, your cost of living is gonna be about $1,000 to $1,500 US dollars per month. And note that all of these costs of living are going to include your rent, estimating rent inside of that cost. So that's like all in. Pretty affordable. You can definitely spend a lot more in CHIANG though, is one thing that I will say is if you want to spend more money, there's plenty to spend your money on. You can buy $2,000, $3,000 luxury villas. There's a lot of spa services and things where your money can go very quickly, but you can also live a very, very good lifestyle for that amount of money. Now, the internet in Bali. So this is going to go for CHIANG and UBUD, which, spoiler alert, is the next one that I'll talk about. But the internet in Bali is not great at all. It's horrible. So that's one thing that's a bit of a bummer living there. The only place that the internet's really truly reliable is in co-working spaces and cafes, which the internet is good. You're able to do video calls and stuff like that. But unless you like install your own Wi-Fi or you're really, really lucky, then your villa or wherever you're staying, the internet's very, very unreliable and the speeds are pretty slow. Now, obviously a lot of entrepreneurs live in Bali, so they make do, but it is something you need to be aware of. Literally right now, hands down, CHIANG is the number 1 place, honestly, in the world, which I know sounds like a very bold statement, but that I have found specifically as a digital nomad where it is just so freaking easy to make friends, to network, because to be honest, I love CHIANG, but CHIANG is also like a kind of made up utopian universe for entrepreneurs, which is really good, but also kind of weird. You're gonna be able to make so many friends because everyone comes there to kind of figure it out and live the digital nomad lifestyle. So let's summarize this here. Pros and cons of going to CHIANG, Bali. Pros are there is so many amenities, like there are so many spas and places to get your hair done and nails done, and so many restaurants, like more restaurants than anywhere I've ever lived in my entire life. There's the best co-working spaces in the entire world. It's so easy to make friends, and of course the weather's great. I would say the main cons are going going to be the internet speed. It is going to be that you do need a scooter. They do have Gojek, which is kind of like an Uber, but you really need a scooter. And then the other thing is safety. So this one's probably not talked a lot. It's not quite as safety, or it's not quite as sexy, but I'm always gonna give it to you guys like no BS. There is a lot of corruption in Bali, and there can be a decent amount of violence even before the pandemic, where, you know, women riding their motorbikes alone at night, sometimes they get their bags slashed and certain things like that. Now, with that being said, every single country that you will ever go to is always gonna have certain areas you don't wanna go to, and some are safer than others, but it is a genuine concern. I would say out of all these places on the list I'm gonna say today, CHIANG, while I absolutely love it and plan on spending a lot of time there, it's where I felt the least safe. If you're interested as a whole in all my digital nomad videos and a lot more, like I said, day in the life, cost of living, kind of behind the scenes fun travel videos, make sure and check out the links in the description below, and we'll link you to our main playlist with travel and digital nomad content. So UBUD, this is location number 2. This is also in Bali. It's about like an hour and a half north-ish of CHIANG, depending on where you look at the map. Now, as I go into UBUD, it's gonna borrow a lot of the same things that I said about CHIANG, but I will tell you the differences. UBUD is really amazing too, but CHIANG is gonna be a lot of like beach, surfer vibes. It's a lot more LA vibes. UBUD is a lot more in the mountains. You have Monkey Mountain. It's a lot more like foresty, all of that. And it's kind of known, without being too stereotypical, for more of that kind of woo side of Bali. I love UBUD as well. I have a lot of friends that live in both these locations. UBUD, in very similar to CHIANG, has really great cafes, really great co-working spaces, but less in amount, not less in quality than CHIANG. I would say the biggest difference between the two is lifestyle and people. So if you want the beach and you want more networking and bars and things like that, then you'll want to go to CHIANG. If you want kind of more recluse, more yoga vibes, more mountain, then you'll want to go to UBUD. And again, the people that you'll find in CHIANG versus UBUD are typically just a little bit different vibes. You'll find a lot more Australian surfer bros in CHIANG, a lot more kind of bro marketing entrepreneurs, but also really cool entrepreneurs, and then you'll find more of like yoga, woo type vibes in UBUD. Again, very stereotypical stuff that I'm saying right now, but it's also pretty true. But both are really amazing. Same cost of living, same pros and cons, all of that stuff. Now, before we dive into location number 3, if you are an entrepreneur, maybe you are just brand new starting your business, or maybe you're really trying to scale and make this full time, or just continue amplifying what you're doing, we have tons of resources and programs for every stage of entrepreneur. This is quite literally what I help people do, is create a freedom lifestyle by being able to build an online business, so you have complete location and financial independence. So definitely check out the description below. We've got a couple of different links for you guys, no matter what stage of business you're at, that we can kind of help you get to the next level, and really enjoy all these awesome locations you're going to be living in. So location number 3 is Bangkok, Thailand. And if you haven't been to Thailand as a whole, I absolutely love Thailand. Thailand was the first place I went in Southeast Asia, and it has a special place in my heart. But let me tell you why you're gonna wanna go to Bangkok and a couple of these other places I'm gonna mention. So definitely cost of living, Thailand is gonna be cheaper than Bali as a whole. Bangkok, however, is a little more pricey. It's a bigger city. Your estimated cost of living in Bangkok is gonna be anywhere from $800 to $1,000 US per month. Again, in Bangkok, you can definitely find some luxury apartments, and you can definitely find some cheaper ones. And I find that that's typically the biggest thing that's going to skew your budget. Now, internet in Bangkok is amazing. I'm pretty much going to leave it at that. All of Thailand as a whole, the internet is really, really reliable, really good speeds. It's absolutely great. So as far as ease of finding friends and networking, Bangkok's a huge city. There's tons of expats, there's tons of travelers, tons of people going through it. So there is the availability of a lot of people there. However, because it's such a massive city, compared to a place like CHIANG that's like 2 main roads and a lot more insular, I did find it a little bit harder to make friends. You just had to put more effort to make friends and kind of find an expat community, because it wasn't quite as transient or obvious as CHIANG, where like everyone is there. We're all in the same Facebook group. You have the availability to make friends, but it takes a little more effort. So pros and cons of Bangkok. Pros: big airport, right? We all want to travel. Great airport. You literally have everything that you need in Bangkok. It is a massive modern city. Great public trans, great malls, all of those things. However, one of the cons, and this is a personal con for me, is it's a very overwhelming city, and it's very big and spread out. So even though they do have good public transportation, I found it really just annoying with how long it took us to get everywhere on a day-to-day basis living there. And the last con's traffic. Endless traffic in Bangkok. Let's move to location location number 4, which is Chiang Mai. So Thailand right now is still to this day like one of the best places for digital nomads to live, find communities, cheap cost of living, great food, all of those things that you're looking for. Chiang Mai is one of my favorites. It was one of the first places I lived when I moved abroad, and you can actually check out our videos here. So cost of living in Chiang Mai is going to be around 600 to 800 US dollars, including rent. Internet, same as Bangkok. It's great. It's amazing. Ease of making friends, I found a little bit easier than Bangkok simply because it's smaller. So it is a city, it is a town. It's got like an American Eagle and a mall, you know, like all the things that you're going to need. It does technically have an international airport, which is a pro, but it's a much smaller city. So there's definitely a lot of like teachers, a lot of expats. The kind of con to that is, while Chiang Mai was kind of the OG digital nomad location, it does seem to have mostly like marketing bros and like drop shippers who hang out in Chiang Mai, but overall I really like Chiang Mai. So the other pros versus cons of Chiang Mai are it does have an international airport, and it's really just a very easy place to live. I would say the biggest cons are going to be the rainy season. I didn't enjoy living through the rainy season there, and it also has a smoky season because they burn all of the crops and everything in the like spring-ish time, and you do not, in my opinion, want to live there at all during that time. Okay, last location, number 5, is also in Thailand, and it is Koh Phangan. So Koh Phangan is an island, and it is south of Bangkok in kind of the Gulf area, and it's surrounded by 2 other main islands, Koh Tao and Koh Samui. Koh Samui is the biggest one, and it is, which is a little bit of a con, where the closest airport is going to be. So one con of Koh Phangan is it actually is hard to get to. It takes a long time to get to because you have to fly into, you know, some near airport, then you've got to take a ferry and a couple of other things, but it is really beautiful once you get there. So cost of living in Koh Phangan is very similar to the rest of Thailand. It's about 600 to 800 US dollars per month. There's some really cool luxury villas like up in the mountains overlooking the oceans, and then there's some really affordable locations as well. Internet, same thing across the board in Thailand. It's really reliable even though you're on an island. As far as ease of making friends, Koh Phangan is a small island, so you're definitely going to have less people than Chiang Mai, definitely less people than Bangkok coming your way. But I find that people that are there, you're going to be very quickly able to connect with each other and whatnot. Koh Phangan's kind of interesting because it does have the full moon party, which was hesitation to me because that's not my vibe, but the full moon party doesn't happen that often, and it's kind of at the south of the island, so as long as you're not in the south of the island, you can pretty much avoid it. There also seems to be a community of expats that live there more longer term, that's kind of nice to connect with, more on the north side of the island, and then we typically stay in the middle, which is a little bit closer to kind of the downtown area of food and cafes and some co-working spaces. So I would say Koh Phangan is also up and coming. I see over the years more and more co-working spaces and some cool stuff that's available for you on the island. One of the cons though is it's a small island. So I mean, you can see the whole island in like a weekend, but there are some fun like hikes and things to do, and of course a lot of water activities, and nearby there's other islands to go to in a national park and some fun stuff like that. But in my opinion, I would get pretty bored living there after a couple of months. Okay, so I hope you guys are loving this video. I'd love to hear in the comments below which one of these locations you feel like you might move to next, which one you're most excited for, if you have any that I didn't mention here. I did promise you one bonus location that is the biggest, in my opinion, up and coming location and kind of underrated, and that is Da Nang, Vietnam. So Da Nang, Vietnam is amazing. It is one of my absolute favorite places to live, and that's because, like I was saying, it's kind of like a hidden gem a little bit, but it's also becoming not so hidden anymore, so you're gonna want to get there fast. So here's why I love Da Nang so much and why it might be your next location. Cost of living is anywhere from 500 to 900 US dollars. You can find an apartment there, like a studio, for 300 US dollars a month. You can find some bigger ones for like 500-ish dollars a month. Okay, but we do live literally 2 blocks from this amazing beach here, and you can't see it because of the clouds, but there's a really cool mountain up there, so there's tons of outdoor stuff to do here when it's not raining. is really cheap, really amazing. If you haven't had Vietnamese food, it is phenomenal. And what's interesting, there's very different cuisines kind of from the north to the south, and Da Nang's right in the middle. So you also have really easy access in being able to fly to the north and the south and some of the surrounding areas. And Da Nang has an international airport. So just throwing some pros at you right out of the gate. The other thing, internet, that I found honestly throughout Vietnam as a whole, super great, super reliable. So very, very easy to handle there. Ease of making friends. This is another really big pro, is we found it really easy to make friends there. So even though it's still kind of up and coming, there seems to be a really strong expat community there. There's a lot of teachers. I think that made up most of the expat community there, but more and more you're seeing more entrepreneurs there as well. And there is tons of cafes, so many cafes to work from. It's just part of the culture there as well. And all the cafes, no one really minded, you know, me working there. The con to that is there really aren't that many co-working spaces. I think there's one or two, but I just, after checking them out, didn't really find them very impressive. Another con of Da Nang is the traffic. If you've ever driven in Vietnam, you'll know what I'm talking about, but it is crazy. Da Nang is no different, and you really do need a motorbike to live there as well. It's gonna be pretty difficult if you don't have your own motorbike, but you also wanna be really careful because it's crazy to drive in Vietnam. The other big pro is based on Da Nang's location. Like I was saying, you can travel to the north and the south. There's trains, there's planes, but even beyond that, like you can take a day trip to Hoi An, which is a really, really cool city, as you can see on the screen here, and it's like 40 minutes away, motorbike drive. There's also an amazing island off the coast of Da Nang. There is the most beautiful mountain bike, like up in the mountain drive that you can take right outside of Da Nang as well. And there is like an ancient ruins outside of Da Nang, so there's so much for you to do. It is just awesome, and there's every amenity that you could need, big malls, grocery stores, all of that stuff as well. So I hope you're feeling inspired to take your business on the road and scale things up and plan your next digital nomad location. I'd love to see where you're going, like I said, in the comments, or honestly shoot me a DM on Instagram, and follow me on Instagram at Amanda Kolbye, and you can check out where I currently am in the world and maybe get some more sneak peeks of some of these locations. So don't forget to like and subscribe and check out some of our other videos here about all things entrepreneurship, marketing, business, and the digital nomad lifestyle.